good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here to get back to chatting with people. I'm the DA here in Middlesex County and have been for almost 8 years. But for about 10 years before that, I spent time as the chief of our unit dealing with victims who were either older or vulnerable in some other way. So had lots of opportunity to see how skillful people can be at relieving you of your money and your possessions. So as a result of that, we've really developed some things that I want to talk about, kind of warnings, because, and one of the reasons I feel so strongly about doing this is even in the case where somebody gets taken advantage of and they report it to the police and we're able to identify that person and we're able to prosecute them successfully, all of that is great. It is unlikely that in any quick fashion we are going to be able to recover the amount of money or the possessions that might have been lost. So, and that's just wrong to see people who've been responsible their whole life and trying to plan for where they're going to be to lose out on those things. So that's why it's so important to me to be out talking about all of these things. And I'm going to talk especially this morning about some of the things that have happened over this incredible past year that have made people a little bolder in some of these scams and have made people more vulnerable to some of these scams. You know, I know for the folks who are here, it is a testament to a couple of things. Number one, your resilience that you've managed to make it through this year and in every possible way. And number two, to your development of technological skills. I know if you are like me in March of last year, I really didn't know what Zoom was. And I certainly didn't know how to spend my whole day there, nor would I become so familiar with. There's probably the most frequently spoken question, it was statement during 2020, which was you're on mute or you need to unmute yourself. So, but the good thing is, and the really important thing for us is that this technology has allowed us to be together. And it also has allowed for a place like Middlesex County, which is the biggest county in New England, and which is big not only in population, but just in geography. We are 877 square miles. So that's a lot of territory to cover. But this format allows us to have people from so many places to talk about some of the things that are going on and how you can best protect yourself. And, you know, I say all the time, the one favor I ask of you is you are all technologically savvy and resilient enough to be on this and getting the information. This is information that my hope is, and my ask is that you will share it broadly, because all of you probably know 4 or 5 other people who would benefit from this information who aren't able to be here themselves. And to the extent that you can get that information out to them, that really is a gift. So one of the things I wanted to start with, and these are going to be available everywhere, and I'll tell you how you can get them, but one of the things that some of the great people on my staff have been doing over this period of time is thinking about how people have been doing shopping or using online services for a number of other things that they might need. And I think sometimes, even if you're able to navigate well enough to get something done, you don't really understand some of the pitfalls or know the quickest way to do that. So we've put some videos together, how-to videos, for anybody who wants to shop for groceries, for other products online. And it's really a step-by-step process for how you can create the account, how you can add things, how you can print out your delivery instructions, and how, most importantly, how you can keep yourself safe. So we're going to spend just a minute taking a look at these videos, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how you can get them.
Hi, my name is Amy Parker. I'm an assistant district attorney at the Middlesex DA's office, and I work for the district attorney, Marian Ryan. She asked me to spend some time with you helping to navigate the internet in order to do essential tasks like having groceries delivered to your home, buying basically anything like a gift for a loved one, or other tasks like paying a bill online. In order to do any of those things, you're likely going to have to create an account at the website that you want to use. So let's do that together now. I'll use the example of Target.com. On the Target website, the sign-in icon is located at the top of the web page to the far right. I'll navigate there now to show you what it looks like. See that button? It appears to be the silhouette of a person. When you click on that sign-in button, a menu of options to click on will appear below the button, and you would want to click on the words Create Account. After clicking Create Account, you will be directed to a page where you can enter all of the information the store requires from you in order to make a purchase or pay a bill. You will need to add all of the information that they ask of you by typing it into the space provided, unless it says optional next to it, and then you can choose whether to provide it or not. Remember that no shopping website will ever ask you for information like your social security number in order to make an account or make a purchase, and you should never provide that information if requested. After you have filled in all of the required information like your email address, your name, and the password that you choose, you can click on the button at the bottom of the page that says Create Account. Now you're all set. Your account should be created and you should be ready to keep shopping or pay a bill. Sometimes websites will ask you at this point to sign up for more memberships or more deals, and that might require you to pay money to do so, but understand that none of this is needed now that you've already created an account to be able to make purchases. At Target.com, the sign-in icon up at the top of the page should now have your name under it, signifying that you are signed in and ready to go. Here are a couple tips. I always write down the email address and password that I used when making an account, and I keep it near my computer. Then the next time you go to order something off of that same website, you will be able to sign in easily, and you will not have to keep the password in your mind. Many websites will have an option when creating an account or when making a purchase to sign up to receive additional emails about new products or sales or deals. These are usually daily emails that can clutter your inbox, and that can become overwhelming. I generally choose not to receive those additional promotional emails. If you also want to choose not to receive any promotional emails, just look out for a line when creating an account or making a purchase that says, sign up for email offers, or something that sounds like that. You can make sure that the small box next to that line does not have a check mark in it. If the site has automatically checked that box for you because they want to send you promotional emails, then you have the power to just click on the box itself in order to make sure that the check mark goes away and you are not choosing that option. No two websites are alike, but you will often find that creating an account at a new website goes something like what we just did together. So good luck and take care.
So you can see we have another one that helps you with grocery shopping, and I'm happy to send the links for those to the Councils on Aging, or they're available on our website. So I know sometimes even after somebody showed me how to do it, I forget one of the steps. So it's a good opportunity to be able to go back and see that. But I want to talk a little bit about why a couple of the reasons that people are so vulnerable right now to so many of these scams and why there are so many of them. One of them is, as you know, often people, when you hear about something that has happened to someone, people think, how could they have fallen for that? What were they thinking when they sent that money, bought those gift cards, did whatever it is? And a piece of that explanation is because scams like the ones that we see all the time really flourish in secret. If I were sitting physically beside one of you at the senior center, and I got a phone call asking me to go buy some gift cards and do whatever it is, I would, and I told you that, you and I would probably share a chuckle and realize that that was something that didn't really make sense. When you're in by yourself, as we all have spent more time by ourselves over the last year, and you don't have somebody right there maybe to bounce that off of, and you also feel pressured about you have to do this right now, it's important to do this, that's when people get in trouble. That's when people get worried about whatever it is, their social security is going to be cut off, somebody in their family needs something, whatever is a piece of the scam, and they do that without having the benefit of talking to people. The other piece of it is, as we've all been at home more and doing more online, banking, shopping, all of that, by definition, putting out more of your personal information. The more your personal information is out there, the greater the likelihood, no matter how careful you are, that some piece of it is going to fall into the wrong hands, and that's going to lead people back to you. So if you're thinking that maybe during this time you've been getting more of those annoying phone calls, more annoying emails, those kinds of things, you're not imagining that, you really have. Because you've probably been putting out more information and it's more of an opportunity for people to use that. The other piece is scammers are very clever. There is nothing that happens, good or bad, that they don't pretty quickly figure out a way to use that. Over this year, as we've been deprived of seeing people, we've been worried about our own health. We've been thinking about, will we run out of toilet paper or paper towels? When will we get the vaccine? Will we be able to find gloves and masks? Those were all opportunities that the scammers have been taking advantage of. And finally, and this is two parts really, finally, there are an awful lot of people really, really hurting financially because of the pandemic. So it's encouraged some people to get into scams. It's also encouraged some people to maybe take a risk that they wouldn't take in agreeing to do something because they need the return, they need the win on the lottery, they need to get whatever it is. So they're taking a risk. And the other piece is, and this is the part that's always hard to think about, you know, as much as we worry about the scams that happen, and they certainly do on our email, on our phones, from people who are strangers, it is still true that an enormous amount of money is taken from people by their own families or people they know. So you may suddenly have a daughter, a granddaughter, a neighbor who has always been completely trustworthy, that you have felt very comfortable having access to some financial information or maybe doing some errands for you or taking your credit card. And now they or their family have fallen on some hard times. And the typical scenario, you know, is I just need to get by once. If I could just borrow some mortgage money or some car payment money or something from grandma, from mom, whoever it is, I'm going to pay that right back. And what we know is that never does get paid back. And it's usually the start down a road that's pretty difficult. So those are reasons why people are more vulnerable and why there are more people out there doing scams. And then there's the virus itself and the scams that have arisen with that. You know, we're all hoping that if you haven't already, that you're going to get your shot pretty soon, that you're going to be able to protect yourself. And we've seen lots and lots of scams offering things like you can pay and get a spot in a line to get a shot. You can have the vaccine delivered to your house. If you pay some additional premium, that will get you the shot quicker. Absolutely none of that is true. You can't buy an appointment. You can't buy a place in line. You certainly can't buy home delivery of a vaccine or a vaccine testing kit. And also, at some point, there's been offers of rides to people. You know, I'll provide you with a ride for $100 to one of those big sites that might be difficult to navigate on your own, Gillette Stadium or Heinz Auditorium or something like that. We understand that people want to get there and get their shot, but anytime you're engaging with giving money to somebody you don't know, the likelihood of that going badly is pretty high. You also don't want to be getting in a car with people and driving off with someone you don't know. And you certainly don't want what I always say is your biggest protection, which is your biggest protection being when you're in your house and your front and back door are locked. They are locked to keep people out and protect you. Anytime you're opening your door and letting people in and they're coming to pick you up, or you're going to have a discussion about paying them, first of all, you put your personal safety in jeopardy having a stranger in your house. And you certainly give them an opportunity to look around your house and see what's there. So it's never terribly surprising when you've had some strangers in the house and they've had an opportunity to see whatever nice, valuable, antique things that you have around, and suddenly those go missing a short time later when your house is broken into or somebody's gotten back in there. So all of those things that involve strangers, that involve you paying strangers, that involve you having them at your house, the likelihood is those are going to end very badly. The other thing that has been happening is the offer for kinds of protective things that people might want. I've seen some really crazy ads for a antiviral spray you'll be able to carry with you when you get your shots and you're going to be back outside again. There are all kinds of offers for every crazy type of mask, some ranging up to $100. Offers for things like special trays to put your purse in if you're going to put your purse down somewhere when you go out. I think we can all really rely on the information that's been coming from the Center for Disease Control in our health departments. You know, the best protection is still wearing the appropriate kind of mask, washing your hands, being careful, and keeping social distance. There's no evidence that any of these other products that are being offered out there for an awful lot of money really are keeping you any safer. The other thing is that because people are maybe communicating with their healthcare provider or going off to get the shot or thinking about their health a lot more, you may be having conversations that are you're talking about your health information. And so you're not as on guard as you would be when somebody calls you or somebody's asking you questions online. If somebody's asking you questions online, you know, we're doing a survey to check on who's getting vaccinated. Just tell us, do you suffer from these conditions? Have you been treated in this way? And people think those are safe because they're often anonymous. So you're getting a series of questions, you know, they usually start with, are you between 70 and 80, 80 to 90, whatever. And then you go through and you're checking off answers about your health situation, but you're not providing your name. Those can still be very dangerous because one of the most profitable scams, and people really don't think about this because it isn't necessarily directly coming out of your pocket. If I get your health profile, if I know, for instance, that you suffer from certain issues around your heart, if you've recently had some surgery to replace your neck, your knee or your shoulder or your, you know, hip, whatever it may be, it's pretty easy for me then to start submitting information to your insurance company, to Medicare, to get some reimbursement from those. People are literally making millions of dollars doing that. So a couple of ways you can keep yourself safe and because you may not be paying for that directly, but we are all paying for that in higher premiums. So one thing is, do not be putting your health information out there, especially in response to somebody calling you up that you didn't initiate the phone call. Obviously, you call your healthcare provider and you get them, and you're providing information. You have control of that call. You get a call and people are asking you those questions, you should hang up the phone. If you're getting those emails like the one that I just described, of, have you ever suffered from one of 20 different categories? You want not to be putting that information out there. And the third thing is, if you get one of those forms that we all get that say at the top, this is not a bill, so right away you're not paying so much attention to it. But it then says that it's a notice of services from Dr. Smith on January 5th. What you do want to do is you want to look at that and be sure that you actually received those services. So for instance, what we have seen be a huge moneymaker for scammers is you have had surgery to replace your knee. You've legitimately had that surgery. Somehow the scammers have figured that out, and they are now submitting 4 different bills for a brace, a walker, and maybe some crutches that you may or may not be using. So if you get a notice that your insurance company has been billed for something, you want to look and be sure that you have, in fact, had that. Because what happens at the insurance company is they know, oh, Mrs. Jones had her knee replaced. We can expect certain expenses. They may not be scrutinizing those or really even know. Maybe you did actually get the brace and the walker. They don't know that. That really is incumbent on you to be taking a good hard look at that and be thinking about those pieces. The other scam that's been twisted to fit the coronavirus is, you know, we talk a lot about the grandparent scam. And that scam, which initially began with younger grandchildren and some kind of threat that if you didn't come up with a certain amount of money by 4 o'clock this afternoon, that something might happen to one of your grandchildren. And it was frightening because they would actually have the name of your grandchild and something that seemed to be where your grandchild would be. The second and more sophisticated, harder to track down piece of that scam has become the scam where you get the phone call and it purports to be a police officer or a hospital or something that says, we're calling about your grandson, Michael, who's in school out here in Colorado. He's had a car accident. We're going to need some payment for that. And there's always a lot of rush and hurry. And sometimes the person purporting to be your grandson gets on the phone. That conversation is usually punctuated by a lot of crying and sniffling. And if you say, Michael, this doesn't sound like you, the answer is, well, my nose is swollen, or I bumped my nose, I bumped my head. Lots of things that in your worry, because obviously your first worry is how is your grandchild, you're not really thinking about. And the next thing you know, you're sending money off for that. So one of the very common variations of that we have seen, you get a phone call that purports to be from your grandchild who's away at school. Nana, I'm at school. My roommate has tested positive for the virus, and they're saying we have to go stay at the Marriott. Can you send me $250 for the first night of that? Of course, you don't want your grandchild staying with the person who's tested positive from the virus. We've read all those stories about schools moving kids out into off-campus housing. That sounds kind of reasonable. The next thing you know, you're sending that money out. So be aware that those are out there. If you get that kind of a phone call, call your grandchild, call your child, check up whether that's really happening. And always, 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 anything that asks you either to send cash or to send a gift card, I promise you, I absolutely promise you that that is a scam. So if somebody's asking you to go buy a gift card, it's a scam. And the variation that has made sure that they won't be caught even more is initially when people were being asked to get gift cards, the request would be go to the CVS or the Walgreens or someplace and buy us some gift cards. Mail the gift cards off to this address. Well, we had some success with that because people might have sent those gift cards off. Then they would realize I probably shouldn't have done that. They would call the police. And sometimes we were successful in intercepting the mail that had those gift cards in it. So they got even more clever. What they will ask you now is they'll ask you to go and buy that gift card, turn the gift card over. On the back of the gift card, there's a little silver slot. They'll ask you to take a coin like a lottery ticket and rub that silver off and give them the number over the phone. Once you do that, the piece of plastic you have in your hand becomes useless. It has no value. So if you buy a $100 gift card and you scratch off the back and you give somebody else the number, it doesn't matter that you still have the card. They have access to the $100. So absolute promise, cash or a gift card is going to be a scam. The other thing you want to be careful about, and because everybody's sending out protecting things during the pandemic, giving you updates on things, is do not open emails that you don't know the person who's sending you that email. Even if it looks like an email that you recognize. So you may get an email that looks like it comes from your bank. It looks like it comes from Social Security. They're very clever in just changing a little bit, putting an extra comma, an extra slash mark in that address, but it is not where you think it's coming from. Social Security and the IRS are absolutely not going to call you on the telephone, and they are not going to email you. So if you get a call or an email that purports to be from either Social Security or the IRS, that is 100% a scam. The only way those two government agencies are going to communicate with you is through a letter, an old-fashioned letter in the mail. So you are absolutely, as we go into tax season and you see things that might look like they come from the IRS, if they're coming those ways, they are not really what they purport to be. So, and the other problem is not only can you find yourself in trouble by opening the email, you might be opening that up and letting some malware in that can hack into your computer. So you want to really be careful about doing that. If you think there's something out there that you need to be worried about, look up the number. Don't take a number off the email because, of course, if a scammer sends you the email, when you dial the number that's in the email, he is going to pick up the phone and say, this is the IRS, this is Social Security. So go on your own, find the number, and call them. Remember, the places that gave you something never are going to need to get the information from you. So if Social Security gave you your Social Security number, they don't need to call you to ask for it. If your bank opened a bank account for you, they don't need to call and ask you for your account number. And that is exactly what you should say. First of all, don't answer the phone. But if you do answer the phone and they say, you know, this is wherever you do your banking, we're confirming your account number, I would move my money out of a bank that can't keep track of what my account number is. That's what you need to be thinking about. And if you get the call, and I got this call myself the other day, this is Social Security. We want to make sure to keep your payments going. I don't get Social Security payments, but they want to keep my payments going. Give us the last four numbers of your Social Security number so we can verify. Social Security is running pretty well. They don't need you to give them back your Social Security number. So if you did not initiate those calls, never provide that information. I saw in the chat, someone just asked if that is a text. That is absolutely the same rule. Neither Social Security nor the IRS is ever, ever, ever going to text you. I promise you that. And especially if you see a text that also has a link in it, that has the same danger as opening a bad email. You may be actually, if you think about the information on your computer, the reason why you have passwords and do all of that is to keep that firewall around your information so people can't penetrate it. Very often when you bring in those links, it's essentially like if you think about Swiss cheese, you've punched a hole in that firewall. And it enables people sometimes to get in to see your information, sometimes to even follow your keystrokes so they can see what you're typing in as passwords. If you didn't initiate it, don't let them in, right? So you are relatively safe, subject to what we all know, every time you know, shop at big places and that sort of thing, you know, you're liable that somebody will hack in, you know, whether it's the TJ Maxx hack or it's been some of the gas credit cards, those kinds of things. But for the most part, if you initiated a transaction, you are relatively safe. If you go on the site for a company you've done business with a lot of times and you are ordering things like you saw in the video, you know, you have a grocery store where you've established your account, you initiate that. That's the thing you always want to think about. Did I start this or did they reach out to me? If they reached out to you, it is highly likely that it is a scam. So even if they reached out to you and you're thinking, well, that sounds like a good idea, maybe I would like to add that banking service, or maybe I would like to do whatever. Do not do it in response to their reaching out to you. Hang up, click off, and go reach out yourself to the bank or whoever it is and find out if you want to take part in that service. And that is especially true for those calls. As I just said, the call that I got from Social Security, they're very scary because they call and they tell you your Social Security number has been associated with some criminal activity. There's going to be a warrant. They're going to stop your payments. I absolutely promise you that is a scam. There is no warrant out there for you, and your Social Security number has not been attached to illegal activity. Part of the problem is the longer you stay on the phone, the more opportunity that gives you them to get information and use that against you. So my recommendation is always, if you don't recognize a number, don't pick it up. If it's important, they'll leave you a message. But if you do, if you somehow do pick that up and you realize you're into something you don't want to be in, hang up as quickly as you can. Don't keep talking, all right? Because you're giving them a longer opportunity. The other piece of that is, and I get the question all the time about what is the way that I could try to stop some of the phone calls coming to me? And I'll tell you, if I had the answer to that, I would be very rich. But what I can tell you is true is this. When scammers or anybody else want to be making phone calls, what they do is they buy lists of phone numbers relatively cheaply. They might buy 500 phone numbers and they are going to robocall those 500 people. Maybe of those 500 phone numbers, only 350 of them are actually working numbers. 150 of those numbers might be disconnected, no one lives there, all of that. What makes a number more valuable is when they know they get an actual person. So some people pick up the phone and then say, this is a bad time, or please don't call, or start negotiating with them about put me on the no call list and then hang up. You have accomplished nothing of what you wanted to do. What you have done is confirmed for the people who buy those numbers that your number is a number that's actually associated with a real person. So you have in fact made your number more valuable, and you're going to increase the number of calls that you are going to get. So if you pick up a phone and you realize it's a robocall or it's somebody calling about something, do not, and I know this feels very impolite, but just do not engage. Hang up the phone, end that connection. You will, and of course it's better if they never got you, because think about it. If I was going to call a number that never gets answered, or I was going to call a number where I know there's a real person who sometimes picks up, my opportunity to sell, pitch, scam is much greater with the number that the person picks up on. So that number has become valuable. The other piece is when you put, obviously some people use their machine and have their machine on, be very careful about what you put on your machine. I call people often and I get what sounds like a very, very pleasant message. You know, you've reached Bob and Susan and the cat, and we're busy this afternoon, and you tell people a whole lot of information. Again, you've made it very clear that there are real people at that number, that at certain times they can reach real people. So if you're going to use your machine, you want to have a very standard business-like machine. You know, you've reached 978, whatever the number is. We, even if it's you, just you, we can't come to the phone right now. Please leave a message. That's all you need to put out there. You just really don't want to give, think about it as they are intruders into your home, and you don't want to be providing them with any more information than you have to. Another sort of scam that relates to your tech piece, and we've all been using this more, so we'll be seeing that, is very often you will get the call, or more concerning, you will be on your computer or one of your devices, and something will pop up saying you're in danger, you're about to lose things, you need whatever it is. That is absolutely a scam. And so even very sophisticated people often see that, think this must be my provider, MSN or whoever you Gmail or whoever you're using. They make the phone call, and the people are charming and they're very efficient, and they start telling you, press this button, you'll see a green light, do this, press that number, and you keep doing it, and it's happening just as you predicted. Think of that Swiss cheese. All the time you're talking to them, you are opening portals in your computer and allowing them to come in. If you are having trouble with your computer, with your device, with your email, whatever it is, you should initiate the phone call to your provider. And then you can walk through with the person that you initiated the call at Apple or Gmail or whoever you call to figure that out. Never take that incoming, especially and particularly when you are online, and when you are most vulnerable is when you are online and you are conducting a transaction. So you're online, you're doing some online banking, and suddenly a little box pops up that somebody wants to help you. That is the worst time for you to seek help. So just don't fall into that. The same is true for all those insurance plans. Every time I'm in person and I'm talking about this, there is somebody who raises their hand that says, just in the last couple of days, they were sorting their photos or doing something, and suddenly a box popped up from Microsoft or some service for $19.99 a month. We will lock down all of that, and now they paid that. It is never $19.99 a month. Your credit card's getting charged for a whole bunch of things, and it has never been clear to me that you're actually getting any service. So if you think you need protection and you want to buy protection, again, you should talk to your provider. You should initiate those conversations. You know, as we get to the spring, one of the things we will inevitably see are the kind, you know, people start assessing their house, their apartment, whatever it is. You may start thinking you need a yard cleanup. Maybe you've got some trees that need to come down. Whatever it is after the winter, you want the house painted, you want to freshen up inside, all of those things. We will invariably see the scams in a variety of ways. The most popular is somebody who shows up at your door and says, with a truck that's got all the appropriate lettering and ladders and whatever, I am the gutter cleaner, I am the driveway paver, I am the painter, and I have been working on name some nearby streets that you are familiar with, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just happen to have some either extra time or extra driveway sealer, and I'd be happy to do something for you for X amount of dollars. There's a really simple approach you can take that protects you from this, and that is every one of you has over time entered into contracts to buy things. You've entered into a contract to buy a house or a condo, a contract to buy a car, a contract to buy a refrigerator, whatever it is. You all know the way to do that is first to think about, what do I need? I need a new car. How much can I afford to spend on the new car? X amount. And what are the features that I really care about in my new car? And once you've kind of got that list together in your head, I am going to buy a car, I'm going to spend $25,000. I need it to be a 4-wheel drive and have a hatchback. Then you start looking and figuring out what you're going to get. None of you would think about making a contract to buy your car, buy your house on the front steps or at the back door. And that's a really valuable rule. Entering into a contract to get your trees taken down or your house painted or your driveway redone should be treated exactly the same way. And if you think that through and come to an assessment that you don't make contracts at the back door, no matter who shows up, you can then just tell them, I don't enter into contracts at the back door. I'm happy to look at your information. And then if in fact you do need your trees cut down or you do need the house painted, you can evaluate what they give you. They probably won't give you anything because it's really a scam. And make an assessment of where that person falls. So letting yourself be talked into something that you didn't start out looking for is always a problem because they're clever. They will show up having assessed that you maybe have something that needs to be done, right? The same is true for the kinds of in-house services that you get ads for. You get a note, somebody comes to the door and says, we're cleaning furnaces in the area. If you're like me, you don't know whether your furnace is dirty or not, but it sounds like maybe that's a good idea after the long winter to clean your furnace. And it usually goes something like this. We're doing furnace cleanings, and for $79.99, we'll clean your furnace. You won't have to worry about it. Your air conditioning will work better. Everything will be great. Doesn't sound like a bad deal. I can absolutely tell you what that script will be. They will disappear into the basement, and they will then come up and say, it's a good thing we looked at your furnace because we discovered that your purple spinning wheel in your furnace is not working properly. You don't know what a purple spinning wheel is in the furnace, and you don't know what it looks like. And they may, in fact, be holding some little device, and they will tell you this is it. And it looks dirty, it looks bent, it looks whatever. You didn't know you had one of those. You certainly don't know what it should look like, and you don't know whether this is actually a damaged one. But suddenly you will be paying $200 to replace something you didn't know you had and didn't know was broken. So, and again, I just saw somebody put a question in the chat about, is that true with the pop-up ads? It's certainly fine to evaluate a pop-up ad, but you should do it the same way. If you weren't thinking your gutters needed cleaning, just because an ad pops up, you don't want to do that. And usually those pop-up ads, which sound wonderful, if you read to the bottom in script that's about that big, there are 800 different conditions why you will not in the end qualify for the $19.99 price that is in big letters in the ad. So when you need something, you've identified, I need gutter cleaning, I need furnace work, whatever it is, you should begin the process of shopping for that. You know, talk to people you know. That's the best way to get somebody they've used who's reputable. I would be very, very cautious of just picking people because they presented themselves to me. It is always better when you are the moving party in doing all of that. And the problem is not just losing the money. What we have unfortunately seen with the home repair scams is often you not only lose money, you know, you paid out an enormous amount of money, they were going to do the project, and they disappear over the hill with your money. They also very often actually damage your property. You may have seen about a year and a half ago, a case we investigated, a woman, somebody came to the door, offered to rebuild her kind of deck that was in need of some repairs. She had been thinking about redoing the deck. She signed up for that, gave the person at the door a lot of money. He went out, came back, dumped a pile of wood in the back of her house, tore the deck off the back of her house. So now she had a door from the kitchen that was up a floor and a half and went nowhere, and then disappeared with her money. So not only was she out the money, she had a mess of rotted wood in her backyard, and she actually had damaged her house. And where she was at some point thinking about maybe doing some work on the deck, she now had an immediate need to replace the deck because she had a door that was a drop-off. And she discovered in the way that he had pulled the deck off, he'd actually damaged her house. So she spent money for something she wouldn't necessarily have bought right now. She had to repair what he had done. She had to clear up the wood, and she'd given him several $1,000s that he disappeared with. So sometimes it's very tempting. And, you know, we all want to get in on a good deal. And this is, again, in part related to this and in part related to COVID. So there's that, you know, I just happen to have at 3 o'clock the extra asphalt, and I can do your driveway for $29.99 or whatever it is. Everybody wants to get in on the bargain. The same kinds of things are happening with COVID. People saying there's opportunities to invest in apartments, or people will be moving out of the city and into the suburbs, invest in these things. We all know, when we think about it, there are very few opportunities that are too good to be true. And if they seem too good to be true, they probably aren't true. And it's probably going to end up costing you money. And if they're a real bargain and actually a good opportunity, they aren't going to expire in 2 hours. So just as I said, anything that involves gift cards or mailing money is going to be a scam. Anything that there's some incredible urgency about. If you don't do this in the next half hour, that's going to be a problem. You've got to tell me right now whether you want to buy this. I've got to do the driveway today. I can't wait till you talk to your son or daughter about it. That is a red flag that you should take very seriously. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about is, you know, for many people, this has been a very lonely time. And that has, in some good ways, encouraged them to interact with family, maybe track down some old classmates, friends from the old neighborhood, whatever, online. It has also greatly increased the kind of friendship romance scams that we see all over the place. So people who have struck up what they think is a relationship, a very healthy relationship with somebody, a partner, online, and they're talking a lot, and they're sharing pictures, and they're doing all sorts of things, and they're feeling really good about it. And then suddenly that, and remember, these people invest time and they're charming. So that goes along for a couple of months and you're feeling really good about it. And then suddenly the person's saying, oh my goodness, my mom is sick, I'm sick, I want to come visit you. Can you send me some money for a ticket? And the next thing you know, there's a lot of money. And those are painful, not just because you lose the money, but because you also feel like you lost a friendship when in fact that was a scam relationship. So just be very, very careful about striking up conversations, getting involved with people online. You know, we all tell children, don't go anywhere with strangers, don't talk to strangers. As I remind kids all the time, just because somebody's online, if you couldn't pick them out in a crowd, you've never really seen them, they're still a stranger. And those strangers are looking to separate you from your money and your property. So I want to leave a few minutes to take some questions. And I don't know whether we want to do this in the chat or people are going to raise their hand or call out questions, whatever works for people.
So I can move everybody over so you can see them, but that would allow them to talk if you'd like.
That would be great.
Okay, give me 1 sec.
And a good point, Kendra just made a good point in the chat, which is sometimes in the before time and in the hopefully soon future time, those romance kind of scams can certainly happen in person. Somebody is befriending you at your church group or the senior center or wherever you are. A healthy dose of suspicion is a good thing about people. People have questions. Is it true that giving somebody? Is it true that giving somebody your cell number allows them to get into your banking information? It's certainly can allow them access to things. I mean, I wouldn't be giving my cell phone number to people that I didn't want to be talking to. I mean, obviously you call a doctor's office, you do whatever, you have to give your number, you're going to give your number. I would be discriminating about who I'm giving my cell phone number to, especially as many times you get all your devices tied together. So there are literally every day, as we track people's activities on these things, they are always one step ahead of us in figuring out ways to, what they're looking is to penetrate that wall around your information. I would keep as many people out of there as possible.
So I'm almost finished moving everybody over. So as you can see, you're now part of the big screen. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the DA a question.
Yeah, Abla.
Yes, I've been getting an amazing number of phone calls, and I have on my home phone screen. You know, you can tell where from the number. A lot of those numbers are from Sudbury, and sometimes even from people who live in Sudbury, which turn to be not true. And sometimes I took the phone because I thought it might be someone who knows me from the senior center or from whatever, and but some are like from Colorado, from California, and it shows, you know, on the screen of the phone. And I usually try not to answer at all, but they can be really deceiving with numbers of people who own those numbers, but are not the people. They're being impersonated, something like that.
So you make two good points, one of which is what I said earlier. We're all getting more of those awful phone calls.
Much more, my God.
Because they know you're home. They know everybody's home. So, you know, most people in the before time, most people's house was empty all day. So they know people are home. It's just another hunting ground for them, if you will. And the other piece is the way you see those numbers. If you saw yesterday, the state police put out a alert that people have been getting phone calls. What is popping up is Massachusetts State Police. So of course, it makes you a little nervous. You pick up the phone. All you have to do is go online. For less than $20. You can get a spoofer, which makes me able to call from any number I want. And what they do is exactly what's happening to Abla. They put in a number that sort of looks like your town's number. And you're thinking, oh, maybe that's my neighbor that I don't have programmed into the phone, or it looks like your hairdresser's number or something like that. It's a trick, right?
And today I got the first time I'm getting on the screen. It's from the post office, postal service, and I tried the number. They didn't answer. So I mean, I didn't answer, but when I saw it is from the postal service, I looked at the number. It was 443, so I thought it must be Sudbury. Nobody answered.
Yeah, and it's a trick. So you may get the call that says it's your local fire department or police department or whatever. I can be anybody I want. All right. It's like being a ventriloquist. The spoofer allows them to throw their voice as anybody. So they throw their number as the police department, the state police, whatever. I've been getting an enormous number of phone calls that seem to be from the local hospital. Of course, they're not from the hospital. But especially if you're sort of expecting a call or you go to the hospital or whatever, you're thinking, okay, this is about my appointment. I'm going to answer the phone.
Yes.
Their goal is to put up a number that you will pick up on.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is just have a rule. You don't know the number, you don't answer the phone. If it really was the hospital calling about your appointment, they'd leave you a message.
Exactly.
Anybody else have any questions?
I do. Kathy wants to ask a question.
Yes, Kathy, what's your question? I'm happy to see you here.
I'm happy to see you too, sweetie. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Listen, I have my phone's unlisted, and I'm always getting these crazy phone calls saying about electric company. What do I do? Just hang up and say, Is it
Yeah.
really Edison? In the store that's really calling you, or is it a scam?
It's a scam. And even though your number's unlisted, the robocalls are just going to keep putting together
I see.
numbers. So it's just luck of the draw. I mean, there's only 4 numbers in the end of your phone number. So there's only so many combinations. If I just keep running through, like spinning the numbers, I'm eventually going to get to your number.
Thank you. No, because what I do, I just tell them they're a scam and they hang up on me.
But remember, in doing that, you have let them know that whatever number they did just dial is a live number.
Oh, I see.
So you have made your number more valuable. If you make a practice, and I have to say this is true, if you make a practice of always answering your phone, you will get more calls from your neighbor who never answers.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I didn't know that. And
they'll just keep pitching. They're hoping you'll buy something, do something. Maybe they'll catch your attention with some call and you'll fall for whatever they're offering.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate your talk. Was interesting, and be safe.
You too. Anybody else? Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep. Let me just go to Amanda, Charles, and then I'll go to you. Amanda.
Hi, Marian. Thank you. I know that this is going to be made available on local TV. I was wondering if there's going to be a link emailed, and if possible, am I allowed to share that with the residents at the CCRC I work at?
Yes, and either Marcella or Megan will figure out how to do that link to you.
That would be great.
Share it as widely as you can. As I said in the beginning, the best thing you can do for me is to tell this information to everybody you know. Because the more people we can protect, the more useful this has been. Charles, did you have a question?
Yes. Yeah. I subscribed to a magazine and they kept my credit card and automatically renew the subscription. On their website, there's no way to remove my credit card number. And when I call them on the phone, they put me on hold and never answer. Is that a scam or, I mean, it's a legitimate magazine.
Right. It's a legitimate magazine. But they're employing that practice, and a lot of places do that, and you don't really notice it. It's, we're going to, it will say, again, in print about this big on the bottom, we are going to automatically renew unless you opt out. What I would do is send them a letter with a registered letter that if you don't want to get the magazine anymore, I would send that. And because it is a real magazine, it's a pain in the neck to do that. But because it is a real magazine, if you do that, they probably will stop.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's you bring up a great point though. If you order something else, if you are ordering something online, and it's true a lot of times now, if you order flowers, you order those food boxes, things like that. When you're doing that order, make sure you read all the way to the bottom, because you think that you are only doing a one-time purchase. Many of them now have a line at the bottom that says, we're going to send you next month's purchase unless you check off. So they've switched it. So the burden is on you to not get the next thing. And then the next thing you know, you're stuck with the stuff coming and you're trying to return it. Just as you check off, when you're about to place your order, just make sure you read all the way to the bottom. And there's usually a box that says, check here if you don't want to receive anything else. Well, that's kind of backwards because it's making you have to do it. But you can save yourself a lot of aggravation by doing that. Any other? Yeah, the sales scams. And I saw somebody's question. I wanted to just go back. Let me find the chat piece. I saw somebody remember somebody was saying about Craigslist and the money. Another one of the really popular scams, especially if you sell something on Craigslist or eBay or one of those places, or if you are renting something, like if you have a summer house and you're renting your summer house or doing any of that. So you make a deal with somebody, you're going to sell something for $50. You get a check for $200 from them. You call them back and say, you know, it was only $50. You sent me 200. And they say, oh, okay. Instead of me sending you another check, you put the $200 in the bank and send me a check for 150. That sounds pretty safe. So you go to the bank, you put the $200 check in your account, and it shows in your balance, you're now up 200, right? So you're 150 over where you should be. You now send the check for 150 as the refund. 4 days later, that check bounces. Now you're out the 150. So, and you didn't get the 50 either. So remember, your bank has a practice. If you have an account, you go down to the bank and you put a check in today. Usually they will make a lot of that check available to you right away. Sometimes half, sometimes 3/4 of the check. So if I go to my bank right now and I put in a $200 check, I could withdraw $100. Obviously, in the 5 minutes between when I put the check in and when I withdrew the $100, they didn't have a chance to go to the other person's bank and see if they have $200. When they eventually send that check back to their bank, we will find out that their account is closed. They've already given me the money. They're going to take that money back. So anytime somebody wants you to put a check in the bank, first of all, you shouldn't do it. Tell them to send you another check. But if you were going to do it, give it a full 7 to 10 days before you take any of your money out. Give your bank a chance to find the money. I will guarantee you they're going to be calling you to tell you they couldn't get the money. Yeah, Paula.
Hi there. Thank you for hosting this.
Sure.
I work in a bank and I have some of my coworkers on the screen here with you. And this is the kind of stuff that we witness a lot of. So if I can just say one thing to people, when you get these situations with the checks that you're referring to, never be afraid to ask your banker about it. I got this check in the mail. It sounds strange. I sold an item. My son is selling a car. He got this check. I was told to deposit it. You're not alone in this. Bring it into us, run it by us. And like you're talking about, Marian, we've seen all these scenarios, and we can pretty much tell in a few minutes by your conversation that you're sharing with us that this is most likely a scam. So all I just say is encourage a phone call to your bank, your personal banker, the 800 number, anything you can do, even a family member, but don't be reluctant to share your situation, even if you feel it is legitimate. Thank you.
Also, oh, thank you. Thanks, Paula. Also, if you're selling something, you know, you're selling something on eBay or Craigslist or whatever, remember what I said about people coming in your house?
Yes.
It's never a good idea for people to come to your house. Many of our police departments have set up safety zones out in the parking lot where you can exchange whatever it is. One good piece is if you say to somebody, I'm going to sell you this end table or something, and I use the safety zone at the police department, they may be less interested. And that itself will tell you something. But lots of our police departments have spots right in the front. And even if they don't, they certainly will let you do that. That discourages a lot of scammers.
That's a great idea. I have a question about those. Just want to tell you that if I take a phone call and don't answer, I don't hear anything. So it seems like are these the automated kind of are they actually programmed? So if you don't say anything, the call it hangs up. It's not there.
It's probably a robocall, but it does record that they got a human voice.
But so, no, if you don't say anything.
Right, they know a person picked up the phone. Like
they will. It
know
will
that
register.
That's not a machine. Somebody picked it up and put it down. Yes.
Ah.
Yeah. The other thing is the scam that we were seeing for a long time was you would get a bill. You'd get a charge on your credit card, you know, $39.99 for something. When you called up, you would say, I don't know what this is. And they'd say, well, you bought computer protection or you bought whatever it is. And when you said, I don't know anything about you, I never did it, they would replay the conversation where they were talking to you and you would hear your own, they'd say, do you want to get this? And you would hear your own voice saying yes. Oh, and the way they were doing that was you get a phone call. And this is so instinctive. This is part of why I think I say you shouldn't pick up the phone. So I pick up the phone in my house. I say, hello. And someone says, can you hear me? Right? 99 out of 100 of us are going to say, yes, I can hear you. Well, now they've got that clip of you saying yes. Or am I calling 617-489, whatever? Almost everybody is just sort of instinctively going to say yes. Mm-hmm. Now they have a tape recording of that. The other thing, and just related to that, is, you know, most people have heard enough of the conversation. I always think they should by now have heard never give out your social security number.
Yes.
So they don't have as much success with that. So what they will often do, if you know your social security, you know, if you think about your social security number, the first 3 numbers have to do with where you were born. So I could probably guess where most people on here were born. The middle numbers have to do with the decade when you were born. So I could probably get within 10 years. And it really is only the last 4 numbers of your social security number that are completely unique to you. So often what good scammers will do is they will start, like we all know our social security number by heart, right? You've said it 100,000 times. They start a number that sounds like your social security number. So the first 4 or 5 numbers you hear are right. Then they just say something. Almost everybody will instinctively jump in to correct them. And now they have your social security number. So that's just a very sophisticated trick. It's not hard. You know, most of us were probably born in Massachusetts, and they can get voting lists, they can get whatever, a resident list, and know how old people are. Or I'm calling the senior housing. Well, I can pretty much guess which decades the people in that apartment were born. And the vast majority of them are going to be born in Massachusetts in, you know, the 1940s or 30s. I can probably get the first 5 numbers right. You start hearing those numbers that are so familiar to you, and you're just going to chime in with the rest of those numbers. So just be really careful about that. Anything else? Any other questions people have? Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for having me. Thank you all. Please just spread the information far and wide. We'll make the videos available and the link as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, DA Ryan. This was so informative, and like I said earlier, I'm so appreciative of this. So just so you know, I will be sending this recording to Acton TV, who will create a YouTube link, and it'll probably be easier just to disperse a YouTube link. I do have your emails from registration, so if you'd like, I can just forward that to all of you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Stay
you
well,
again.
everybody. Hope to see you in person. Thank you.
Marian. Take care.
Bye-bye.